You walk into a room and the conversation shifts. Not because you said anything, not because you did anything, but because your presence alone changed the atmosphere. They feel it. They do not know what it is, but they feel it, and it makes them uncomfortable. You were taught that intelligence is rewarded, that sharp minds are celebrated, that if you think clearly, speak precisely, and see through the fog that blinds everyone else, you will be admired. That is the lie they fed you. The truth is uglier. The truth is that your intelligence does not elevate you in their eyes. It exposes them. And when people feel exposed, they do not thank you. They eliminate you. Machiavelli understood this. In The Prince, he wrote that men are so simple and so ready to obey present necessities that he who deceives will always find those who allow themselves to be deceived. Translation: most people do not want the truth. They want comfort. And your mind, sharp and unrelenting, strips that comfort away just by existing. There are 9 specific signs that your intelligence is making people deeply uncomfortable. The 6th one will explain why you have always felt like a stranger in your own life. If you are not ready for this, close the video. Go back to the crowd. But if you want to know the truth, stay, because once you see this, you cannot unsee it. You were brainwashed to believe that intelligence is a social asset, that being smart makes you likable. School told you that. Your parents repeated it. Society packaged it and sold it to you wrapped in merit badges and participation trophies. But they lied. They conditioned you to think that your mind was a tool for collaboration, for fitting in, for helping the group thrive. What they did not tell you is that the group does not want to thrive. The group wants to survive. And survival for the mediocre means keeping everyone at the same level. Your intelligence threatens that equilibrium. Machiavelli knew this 500 years ago. He wrote The Prince not from a throne, but from exile, stripped of power, tortured, alone. And yet he saw the mechanics of human nature more clearly than the princes he advised. He understood that the masses do not celebrate the exceptional, they fear it. And fear, in the hands of the mediocre, becomes hostility. I am going to show you the 9 signs that your intelligence is triggering that hostility. But be warned, once you recognize these patterns, you will see them everywhere, and you will never be able to pretend you belong again. The first revelation. You explain yourself once, and they ask you to explain again. Not because they did not understand, because they want to watch you justify your existence. The average person mistakes your clarity for arrogance. You say something precise, something true, something that cuts through the noise, and instead of acknowledgement, you get suspicion. They tilt their head. They narrow their eyes. They ask you to repeat yourself, slower this time, as if you are speaking a foreign language. You are. You are speaking in clarity. And clarity, to those who live in fog, feels like an attack. This is not an accident. It is a social control mechanism. Dr. Henry Cloud, in his work on boundaries, explains that certain people use repeated questioning not to gain understanding, but to destabilize your frame. They are testing whether you will break, whether you will soften your position, whether you will apologize for knowing what you know. Most people will. They will dilute their point, add qualifiers, smile nervously. You must not. When someone asks you to repeat yourself after you have been clear, you do not repeat. You hold their gaze. You let the silence sit, and you say nothing. Let them marinate in their discomfort. Because the next sign is worse. The second revelation. They change the subject the moment you go deep. You have been in this conversation 1,000 times. Small talk, surface level, safe. Then you say something real, something layered, something that requires them to think for more than 3 seconds. And what happens? They laugh it off. They pivot. They check their phone. They suddenly remember they need to leave. This is not rudeness. This is defense. Your depth exposes their shallowness, and rather than rise to meet you, they retreat. Robert Greene writes in the 48 Laws of Power that the truth is often too brutal for most people to handle, and those who speak it openly will be punished for it, not with violence, with isolation. You become the person they avoid at parties, the one they do not invite to dinner, the one they ghost without explanation. Why? Because being around you requires effort. It requires them to think, and thinking for most people is exhausting. They do not want to be challenged. They want to be validated. Look at Galileo. He did not just present a new idea. He presented a truth so undeniable that it shattered the comfort of the church, the state, and the educated elite. And what did they do? They put him under house arrest. They silenced him, not because he was wrong, because he was right. And his rightness made their entire worldview unbearable. You do not need to be Galileo to experience this. You just need to be awake in a room full of people who are pretending to sleep. Here is what you do. Stop trying to bring them with you. Stop dumbing yourself down. Stop adding disclaimers and softening your sentences so they feel comfortable. Speak at your level. Let them catch up or fall behind. You are not a teacher. You are not their guide. You are a sovereign mind, and sovereignty does not beg for permission to exist. The third revelation. They accuse you of overthinking when you are simply thinking. You analyze a situation. You see the second and third order consequences. You map out incentives, motives, probabilities. You do this naturally, the way others breathe. And what do they say? You are overthinking it. Just relax. Why do you have to make everything so complicated? This is gaslighting. They are pathologizing your intelligence to make you doubt it. Because if they can convince you that your mind is the problem, you will stop using it. And the moment you stop using it, you become manageable. This tactic has a name. It is called intellectual invalidation. It is a passive form of control used by people who cannot compete on the level of ideas, so they compete on the level of emotion. They make you feel weird for being thorough, strange for being precise, crazy for seeing what they refuse to see. The goal is not to help you. The goal is to lower you. And it works on most people. Because most people would rather be accepted than be right. The Spartans understood something the modern world has forgotten. They understood that the greatest threat to a mediocre society is not the enemy outside the gates. It is the exceptional individual inside them. So they created systems to crush exceptionalism early, to enforce equality through shame, to make brilliance feel like deviance. That is what is happening to you every time someone tells you to stop overthinking. They are trying to enforce mediocrity. Resist it. When someone accuses you of overthinking, do not defend yourself. Do not explain your reasoning. Simply say, "I would rather think too much than not at all." Then end the conversation. You do not owe them a breakdown of your cognitive process. You owe them nothing. You are still here. Good. The fragile ones already left. The fourth revelation. People feel judged by you even when you say nothing. You sit in silence. You observe. You listen. You do not agree. You do not disagree. You just exist. And somehow, that is enough to make them uncomfortable. They start justifying themselves, explaining their choices, defending decisions you never questioned. Why? Because your silence is a mirror, and most people cannot stand what they see in it. Joe Navarro, former FBI agent and expert in nonverbal communication, explains that highly intelligent people often have what he calls a neutral evaluative presence. You are not trying to judge anyone, but your stillness, your lack of reaction, your refusal to validate poor logic or bad decisions, it reads as judgment. And it is. Not moral judgment, intellectual judgment. You see the flaws in their reasoning, the inconsistencies, the self-deception. And even though you say nothing, they feel it. Cosimo de' Medici built an empire not with speeches, but with silence. He rarely spoke in public. He listened. He observed. He let others reveal themselves. And because he did not rush to fill the air with words, people feared him. They did not know what he was thinking, and that unknown was more powerful than any argument he could have made. You have that same power, but you have been trained to waste it, trained to fill the silence, to make others comfortable, to smile and nod and agree. Stop. Here is your instruction. The next time someone starts justifying themselves to you without prompting, do not reassure them. Do not say it is okay. Just nod once. Let the silence return. Watch what happens. They will either respect you or avoid you. Either outcome is better than being surrounded by people who need you to be smaller. Comment below. I build in silence. The fifth revelation. They mock what they do not understand instead of asking questions. You reference a concept, a book, a philosopher, a framework, something outside the mainstream, and instead of curiosity, you get sarcasm. Oh, look at the intellectual. Someone has been reading too much. You must be fun at parties. This is not banter. This is a defense mechanism. They are protecting their ego from the discomfort of ignorance by turning your knowledge into a personality flaw. This is what Robert Greene calls the law of appearing less intelligent than you are. He argues that if you want to survive in courts of power, you must hide your brilliance. Let others think they are smarter. Never outshine the master. And he is right if your goal is survival. But survival is not sovereignty. Sovereignty is the refusal to shrink, the refusal to pretend, the willingness to be misunderstood, mocked, isolated, if that is the cost of living in truth. The Knights Templar were destroyed not because they were weak, but because they were too powerful. They had knowledge, resources, influence, and that made kings nervous. So King Philip of France, drowning in debt and threatened by their strength, branded them heretics. He did not need proof. He needed a narrative. And the crowd, ignorant and afraid, accepted it. The Templars were tortured, burned, erased, not for what they did, for what they knew. Your intelligence puts you in the same position, not literally, but socially. You know too much. You see too clearly. And that makes you dangerous. Do not dumb yourself down to avoid the mockery. When they mock you, smile. Say nothing. Let them laugh. And then keep learning, keep sharpening, keep building. Because while they are laughing, you are compounding. And compounding over time is unstoppable. The sixth revelation. You have always felt like a stranger in your own life. This is the one that cuts deepest, because it is not about what others do to you. It is about what you feel inside. You have spent years trying to fit in, trying to laugh at jokes that are not funny, trying to care about things that do not matter, trying to bond over conversations that feel like slow death. And no matter how hard you try, you cannot shake the feeling that you are playing a character, that everyone else got a script, and you are improvising, that you are foreign in your own skin. This is not a flaw. This is proof. Proof that your mind operates at a different frequency. Proof that you see patterns others miss. Proof that you were never meant to blend in. The psychological term for this is intellectual isolation. It is common among people with high fluid intelligence, those who process complexity faster and deeper than the average person. You are not broken. You are not defective. You are simply surrounded by people who cannot see what you see. And that gap, that canyon between your perception and theirs, is what creates the feeling of exile. Machiavelli wrote The Prince while living in that exile, cast out, powerless, alone. And yet, in that loneliness, he created a work that would outlive kings. He did not try to return to the crowd. He built something the crowd could never touch. You must do the same. Stop trying to belong. Start building your empire in the margins, because the margins are where all great things are born. The seventh revelation. They feel threatened when you set boundaries. You say no. You refuse to explain. You decline the invitation. You end the conversation. And suddenly you are difficult. You are cold. You are not a team player. This is because most people do not respect boundaries. They respect compliance. And when you stop complying, they do not see it as self-respect. They see it as rebellion, as arrogance, as a challenge to their control. Dr. Henry Cloud explains that boundaries are not walls. They are property lines. They tell others where you end and they begin. But when you have been surrounded by people who are used to walking all over you, the moment you put up a fence, they will call you cruel. They will guilt you. They will test the boundary again and again, hoping you will cave. Do not. The people who respect your boundaries are the only ones worth keeping. Everyone else is just using you for emotional labor or social supply. Caesar understood this. He did not govern by popularity. He governed by principle. And when the Senate tried to control him, he crossed the Rubicon. He set a boundary so clear, so absolute, that it could not be misunderstood. And yes, It cost him, but it also made him eternal. You do not need to start a civil war. You just need to stop apologizing for having standards. When someone pushes against your boundary, do not argue. Do not justify. Simply restate it once. If they push again, remove yourself, physically, digitally, emotionally. Boundaries without enforcement are suggestions, and suggestions are ignored. The eighth revelation. You make people feel stupid without saying a word. This is the silent knife. You do not insult anyone. You do not condescend. You just exist in your competence. You solve problems quickly. You see solutions others missed. You connect dots in real time, and that alone makes people feel inadequate. So they resent you, not openly, quietly. They stop inviting you to meetings. They stop asking your opinion. They build coalitions without you. Why? Because being around you reminds them of their limitations, and most people would rather remove the reminder than remove the limitation. This is triangulation in reverse. In psychology, triangulation is when someone pulls a third party into a conflict to gang up on you. But intellectual triangulation is when people bond over their shared discomfort with your competence. They do not say it out loud, but the subtext is clear. He thinks he is so smart. She always has to be right. They form alliances built on your exclusion, and the more competent you are, the stronger those alliances become. Napoleon faced this. He was not born into power. He earned it through brilliance, through strategy, through sheer relentless competence. And the old aristocracy hated him for it, not because he was cruel, because he was better, and his existence exposed their mediocrity. So they crowned him emperor, then spent the rest of his life trying to destroy him. They succeeded, eventually, but his name outlived all of theirs. Competence is immortal. Mediocrity is forgotten. Do not try to make yourself smaller so they feel bigger. Let them feel small. It is not your job to manage their insecurity. Your job is to keep sharpening, keep executing, keep becoming undeniable. The ninth revelation. You have stopped trying to be understood. This is the final sign, and it is the coldest one. You no longer explain yourself. You no longer defend your choices. You no longer seek validation or approval. You have accepted that most people will never understand you, and you have made peace with it. This is not bitterness. This is clarity. You have stopped performing, stopped pretending, stopped trying to translate your internal world into a language they can digest. You have gone quiet, not because you have nothing to say, because you have nothing to prove. Robert Greene writes in The 33 Strategies of War that the greatest generals do not justify their movements. They execute. They let the results speak. You are doing the same. You are moving in silence, building in the shadows, operating from a frame so solid that external opinion cannot shake it. This makes you unreachable. And to people who live for social approval, unreachable feels like arrogance. Let them think that. Let them call you cold. Let them say you have changed. You have. You have stopped being prey. This is the path Machiavelli walked, alone, unsupported, misunderstood. And yet 5 centuries later, his words are still read, still studied, still feared. Because he refused to soften the truth to make it palatable. He wrote it raw. He wrote it cold. And it survived because cold things do not rot. You have made it this far. That means you are not like the others. You are not looking for comfort. You are looking for truth. And truth, real truth, is lonely. It is cold. It is unforgiving. But it is the only thing that sets you free. This freedom is not warm. It does not come with applause. It does not come with belonging. It comes with silence, with distance, with the knowledge that you are operating on a frequency most people will never hear. And that is not a curse. That is your signature. Subscribe not because I asked you to. Subscribe because you are done being prey, because you are ready to see the world as it is, not as you were told it should be. And if you want access to what I cannot say publicly, what the algorithm suppresses, what only the sovereign few are ready to hear, join the inner circle. The link is below. But only if you are ready. Only if you have already crossed your own Rubicon. You do not owe them understanding. You do not owe them comfort. You owe yourself the truth. And the truth is this: your intelligence was never the problem. Their fear was. Now stop apologizing for it.